or maybe a week and a half ago, the Prince was in Atlanta, and I saw his interview with the Breakfast Club. I'm not interview, but they played audio from an interview that he had where he was talking about how were trying to run him off the road in Atlanta, and he hit the brakes and tried to back up, and guys went all the way down the highway, turned around and came back, and he was driving backwards and ended up flipping his car over, and they shot the car after it flipped over. Like, so he says, it was pretty much an attempt on his life. He doesn't know why. Like, he said he didn't know if it's from old street ties, or people just mad during the pandemic, or jealous. Who knows? But to follow up, and speaking in terms of Atlanta, like, Killer Mike's barbershop just got hit with stray bullets. It was at a reopening for one of his locations because his swag shop is starting to spread out throughout Atlanta. So it was I saw a video of him and Big Boy. They were in one of the shops, and they were talking about stuff that happened, and how, thank the Lord, those dudes had bad aim because it didn't. They were able to wake up the next morning and there was no damage, will set them back a little bit in terms of opening spots. But it made me think, man, because if I'm not mistaken, King Von, his situation was in Atlanta as well. And I don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but I posed the question and we decided to go with it. But is Atlanta becoming too dangerous to be like the hip hop capital? Because to me, Atlanta is the hip hop capital. No, New York is the originator. I get all that. And, the West Coast, it is what it is. But be clear, Atlanta moves the needle, in my opinion. I think that is the capital of hip hop. It has been that way for a while. But I don't know.
But when has violence dictated what a capital of hip hop was?
I'm not sure if is that what you're trying to say? I don't know if that was what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is it becoming too dangerous? Like, when I say dangerous, how many people are in Atlanta? Everything like that's hip hop related. Like, do you think that's a good look for the city to have multiple rappers getting killed, barbershops getting shot up? That's what I'm saying. Like, is that going to cast a shadow on the city of Atlanta being the hip hop capital? That's what I'm saying. Like,
I think a lot of it personally has to do with a lot of outsiders moving down south. Bringing that energy to Atlanta. That's what I think. Because even when you mentioned King Von, whoever the cat was, he got into it. If they were, neither one of them are from Atlanta, and neither one of them live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which is down there. One. Think like somebody like Killer Mike, somebody shooting up the swag shop is just. Right. He's a beacon of hope for the city of Atlanta. The whole country, as far as Black America is concerned, to be honest with you. So I mean that's sheer pure disrespect. Just to me, it seems like there's a lot of hate in people's heart. People that's actually trying to do something or make something of themselves. And unfortunately, Atlanta has a microscope on it because they do have so many rappers and artists that come from there. And one of the testaments of why that is because they support their own. That's why a lot of people try to move down there and be a part of that movement based on how much that they're uplifting the artists that come from there. And a lot of people are moving down there and aren't abiding by that same Southern code of and courteous, staying out the way and make your moves as you should do without being on some dumb shit. So I think that has a lot to do with it. A lot of the outsiders moving to Atlanta.
How do you think that makes Atlanta look? Does it change anything? Is there any?
No. I honestly don't think it does.
It doesn't affect anything.
I think. Look, I think what Jay Diff said is a lot of outsiders in Atlanta right now. If it was all, if I don't feel like it's Atlanta people doing this, I think it's people. Let me take that back. It could be because, like, right now, we've discussed this before. There are a lot of hungry people out here. There are a lot of people who, are just doing whatever. Like the streets are feeling some type of way. The ribs are touching right now. It still doesn't make sense as far as like, shooting up, a barbershop, because there's no money in just random, basically, violence in that way. But I think that there are people, who live off a little bit of clout, be like, yeah, I shot up that shit, and they'll say that to people out loud and then get arrested later on because basically they confess to somebody. Like just like there's some people who ran up in I want to say a Chanel store in New York, and the dude got on social media and said, I could open up a whole store right now. And of course they got him. People are doing, I think this pandemic has messed with the psyche of a lot of people, and they're just doing stupid shit. And, stupid shit, unfortunately, sometimes becomes violent. And, and especially in the South, where there is, a gun culture. And I really can't talk too bad about that because I live here in Indiana and there's open carry here. And, they basically got rid of the requirement, or at least they're introducing legislation to get rid of the requirement for you even to become licensed. You could just have a gun, and then I'm from Missouri, to where they basically got that idea from Missouri. So I really can't say nothing about Southern gun culture when basically that culture is right here in the Midwest as well. People want to get on and they'll do stupid shit to make a name for themselves. And I think this is part of that. Like you said, with the King Von situation, those people weren't even from Atlanta. So they don't have the same respect for the people who are from Atlanta. But at the same time, I've seen people who are from Atlanta doing things to people from Atlanta.
My point is, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought. I'm sorry, finish your thought.
No. And it's just that this America's become more dangerous in the last year. Whether you're looking at just, unfortunately, you see the level of murder here in our city of Indianapolis. When you see what happened at the Capitol on January 6th, people are willing to exert a certain level of violence to get their point across, whether it be political, whether it be about music, and I think there's something going on within the psyche of Americans in general that is leading us to a more violent place, and it is disturbing. And I hope we snap out of it, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Got you, Lone. Jump in there, man. What are your thoughts?
You said you had a comment on that. Your point.
Well, I mean, my comment is just, being a person that lived in Chicago. Be clear, there's a reason a lot of these artists don't move to Chicago. You hear a lot of these artists, 𝐀𝐿 and all these cats talking about they want to stay Duck, all these people like that. I want to stay home in Chicago. I want to stay home in Chicago. And then we see things that start to happen. Like that's what when I'm trying to talk about Atlanta, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of when I saw Chicago, like there's a lot of people that say, well, I got to get out the city of Chicago. It's too dangerous. You can't blow here. You can't live here. That's what I mean when I say that, because I've seen that happen in Chicago. There's a lot of people that will not stay in Chicago because of drill music and the things that go on in the city that are from there. They feel like they can't blow there because it's so dangerous. That's what I mean when I say, how does it affect the city? Go ahead.
I wouldn't say that. Go ahead. I'll let Long go first because he needs to speak on it.
No, you can go ahead. Sorry.
What I was going to say is, for when you compare it to an Atlanta compared to Chicago, the gang culture is big there.
That's true.
I believe it got worse when they start tearing down low income housing because it spreaded those sets further over the city and into other areas. You have too much people from the same set beefing with the same set. They're a different umbrella, so to speak. So I think the thing in Chicago is a little different than what's going on in Atlanta, because it's not the thing in Atlanta is not bred by gang culture.
Okay.
I mean, it's bred more by jealousy and, like I said, people from the outside coming in trying to get it how they live. How they lived back home, but trying to do that same thing in Atlanta where it's not necessarily welcome.
I guess my rebuttal would be I feel you from a standpoint of, the gang culture and all that. I get all that, especially when you talk about the low income housing. I remember when some of those buildings was getting torn down. I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of violence on violence. Violence by whatever means. Violence is still going to be violence. And it's times 10 in the city of Chicago. I get it. But, I'm not saying it's the same. I was just throwing it out there. But that's a good point, though. I feel what you're saying. I'm not mad at that. Long, jump in there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. I'm just kind of listening to what you guys are saying. I don't know the answer to this. And then the other question would be getting too dangerous for who? So I know you mentioned specifically, the artists and the people that are living there, that are within the culture itself. But I don't know, man. I guess the Sci-Hi thing was a little crazy when he talked about it. I don't even think I even remember hearing about the Killer Mike barbershop thing.
That's just recent.
I saw about the music video recently that was shot up and stuff like that. But none of it was like, oh wow, somebody shot up a music video. It was just like, okay,
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Hip hop culture in general has always been kind of edgy, especially depending on who we're talking about, especially if we're talking about a white demographic or a demographic that is, has tried to historically shield themselves from the potential violence of, I don't know, gang culture and the perception of what hip hop culture is, and the scary hip hop culture that can be to certain white folks and stuff. So I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense in my head, but I don't know. I guess I just don't see it from my point of view as anything that's been like, wow, like this is a whole bunch of stuff popping off that gonna change. I mean, what would it take for my question would be to this is, what would it take for a new place to emerge as the haven of, up and coming hip hop and, a thriving cultural scene of sorts to take over in Atlanta, and is violence really enough to sway that elsewhere? I think violence is just
That's a good question.
Separate.
I think the thing with Atlanta is, for those that have never been to Atlanta, rappers are not the most successful people in Atlanta.
Yeah.
What it looks like when you go to Atlanta, when you visit Atlanta, you see a lot of black excellence. It's from every direction almost.
Yep.
And that in itself is an energy feeds the people that live there and is what made Atlanta one of the staples. People want to go there and get it in because they seen that unity out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you have a lot of these people that's coming to the city, want to be involved in the city, and they're not eating like these people that live there already.
Exactly.
That have already got it out the mud, so to speak, are very successful. They're not playing by the same game. So they didn't come up living and seeing people that aspire to be bigger become bigger, because that's what's going on in Atlanta. You see a lot of success out there. That's why I personally think it has to be from the outside looking in, because even when you go to the spaces where the crime does happen, that's where it stays for the most part.
Yeah,
in Atlanta or Georgia, so to speak. It doesn't happen all over the place or just random type shit. It's controlled. You know what I'm saying? If something happens, that's what it was about. It wasn't about let's follow Sci-Hi on the highway and shoot at him on some bullshit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It would be some warranted street shit, not on some randomness, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks to,
that.
When I talked about how people's ribs are touching, and it's a situation to where damn, like I don't even have a Dodge Challenger. And then this person got all this. Like, it makes it, like, you got to understand, like, there's a lot of success in Atlanta, but there's a lot of self-esteem problems in Atlanta too. And I think that's where a lot of violence, and this is not just an Atlanta thing.
Said a word
where,
right there.
you know, you get to feel in some type of way, you know, if somebody just has visibly more than you, you know, it may not reflect their bank account, it may not affect where they live, but that's the thing about Atlanta is, like, you see people's wealth, whether it's a thing where they actually have it or they're just wearing it. And you are somebody who's trying to get it, it can make you feel some type of way. Like I said, a lot of violence is the result of self-esteem issues. And that's not just Atlanta, that's in Indianapolis, in St. Louis, in Los Angeles, and in Brooklyn. And that's what a lot of this violence is coming from. And when you've had people who have not been eating the way they used to be eating, and you know, a lot of these rappers haven't been able to tour. There's rappers out here that got stimulus checks and they don't want to tell you that, you know, they got that $75,000 and that money because they didn't make $75,000 last year. You wouldn't know it because of the chains that they wear out of the house or the car that they're leasing. And you know, this violent, like I said, I've said this before, you know, when we've talked about things like this, and I'll say it and I'll just reiterate what I've already said. A lot of this violence has to do with self-esteem, and no one wants to really address the issue of low self-esteem, especially among Black males under the age of 25 years old.
That's a bar. I want to jump in real quick because we still got to shout out the partners. I know we're running a little over. Good comments in the chat. I know said Atlanta isn't the same Atlanta years ago. More transplants are there, more than the natives, and they are bringing their drama with them. That's kind of what Terry was saying. David said, I think it's not good for the culture, but technically Chicago rappers is worse. That's fair. Nate G said, I think he's saying the events and movement might possibly shift if the violence continued. Yep, that's where I was going with that. David said the whole drill rap scene. He said, let's see, maybe Atlanta could be.
Yeah, you clarified that, I think. You clarified that about halfway through. So, yeah.
And then we have, LA as a whole is getting crazy too. I believe that, Shano. And then, who am I missing?
Drama can be transferred from city to city. I mean, that's a good point.
Unfortunately, that's a good one, yeah. Desire for community. So I see you, Corey T. Self-esteem problems, even amongst celebrities. Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of people who are famous, but they're not rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Definitely. Because you see them, I mean, they got paper. And the thing with Atlanta too is Atlanta is not only the hub for hip hop. Atlanta is Hollywood right now. That's where they're shooting a majority of these movies and TV shows are being shot right in Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why what's the name built his studios there.
Tyler Perry got a monster studio out there. Yeah,
monster studio out there, and because he knows what's going on.
And it's on plantation. And it's on was it not plantation? It was on what land did he build
plantation?
Plantation. Yeah.
No, it used to be. It used to be basically a base for the Confederates during the Civil War.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. And we invite you to join our hip hop community on Discord. Access it by going to newoldheads.com/community for talks on hip hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.